know what hit you. The anger hit you, you mismanaged it out of your conditioning instantaneously. And you were wrong. You didn't even see it coming. You didn't even know what hit you. It's like getting shot. You didn't even know. Next thing you know, you in hell. Nah. The point is, what is denial? Huh?
I don't get mad. I get pissed off.
Yeah. Get aggravated. It's a tendency to cover up your anger with euphemistic terminology that does not interfere with your legal mythology, because you define yourself as being intelligent, well-educated, spiritual. Highly involved. And how can I get angry? I get aggravated. I get annoyed. But you get so annoyed, you're knocking people out. It takes anger to knock people out, not annoyance. You see, not irritation. Irritation doesn't kill nobody, right? Irritation doesn't feel like I'm gonna kill you, you know. So denial. You need to be able to understand the concept of denial, right? And be able to give examples thereof.
Is suppress under denial?
Suppress it would be a further, a deeper stage of denial. I like to think of suppression as denial without the cover-up.
Right.
You don't even go there, right? You don't even get caught in your ego thought. You know, I'm going to angry, right? Here there's more of a pretense. You're angry, but you're trying to pretend that you're not. Pretend. Right? Here you know you're angry, don't you? All right? You know you're angry, but you don't do anything with it from that point.
Use your expression, make threats.
Right. Your suppression. That's right. If you express this, it may cause some kind of fear for outcome. Right? So usually suppression is rooted in fear of anger outcomes. That's deep. You suppress your anger at the boss out of fear that if I express it, you'll fire me. You also suppress out of the same motive your anger at your husband, your anger at your wife. You see, you're afraid that if you respond honestly, right, and express your anger, even if you're expressing your anger correctly, there's still a fear. If I do express my anger, I will experience loss or separation. Okay. Now remember, these are responses and these things are instant. It's not a long, drawn out phenomenon. In the abstract thing, we feel if we express, with black men, for instance, you have to understand the history, the psychohistory that has shaped our style and way of handling our anger at white people. Because it cuts across gender. Black men and black women handle anger toward racism and have a whole different set of motives. And the black man, at an unconscious genetic level that we're not even aware of, is beneath the threshold of consciousness. We suppress that anger, that white supremacy, racism, out of fear that if we express it, then we know it'll kill you. And it hits you right in the pit of your stomach. And that white officer pulls you over, raises you ain't free now. Because if you express it, there's a fear. This man is going to kill me. He's just looking for any excuse to kill me. And this is death. If I express this anger at this white manager of mine, he's going to fire me. He has power. it's built into the psyche as a result of our forefathers' experience. Standing down in the antebellum South, and then you have to watch this man drag your wife out, hang her up, to lay her like a pig, and you must stand her, and you're not allowed to do it. And those brothers that trapped them, then you watch how they were returned pure. And so slowly you became very conditioned to not respond, not to show any aggression at all for a wife. And your mother and your father helped you learn how to be non-aggressive, how to walk before you get well, how to stand. And this has become part of our tradition. Our denial has become part of our culture. We are in cultural denial. Now this is deep. Is this deep, people? Black culture is a form of denial. This is deep. The way we've been raised, our culture, our values, our beliefs are all components of denial. To not display any aggression or mass.
You know, black mothers make out their granddad and their children for survival.
Of course.
But not how you can break something.
As I said, it's become culture.
Yeah.
It's no longer a function.
But how do you remedy that?
We got to clean ourselves out at the level of our thoughts. We got to go to the bone. This is bone psychotherapy. We got to go way through the skin. This can't be skin deep. We got to pierce all the way in. The clinical thing has to be radical. Total. This is radical surgery. Have to clean all of it before we can put something in. If you put something in on all that garbage, it just gets assimilated into the garbage. It's very difficult work that we're trying to do. But that makes it all the more necessary for us to do it. Yes, David.
In direct terms, I understand what the sister's saying right here. In direct terms, how do you go about, you know what I'm saying, starting that process? What would be some steps that you would take? What would be some of the first things that you would tell, especially, you know what I'm saying, a black man, you know, a black male, a teenager. Say you got a teenager and you just now getting this knowledge. How would you go about telling a teenager or start the process with that teenager to get all of this power?
Very creative. Very creative. And our first aim is to cut things behind. I used to always say that our task is much like the task of removing a fine piece of loose-leaf cloth from a corner of the bush. Pull it, you rip it into shreds. Gently. You know, thorn by thorn, we have to gently do it. Because the psychology is frail. It's so frail. It's so fragile. You see? So fragile. So we have to be very careful. But the aim and objective first is to penetrate through the knowledge. Because that means that his mama was wrong, his daddy was wrong, his granddaddy was wrong, everything that he learned in school was wrong. And that takes quite a bit of skill, you see, to talk to anyone, be they young or old, along those lines. Terrible, world threatening topics. So you have to talk them down. Much like, you know, if this person's on the edge of the building, you can't holler because you may startle them, and that means send them over the top. You have to like talk them down, like they were high. Very good. But the way, David, to tell you the truth about it is that we first have to do that ourselves. Because we won't have to love the skill unless we ourselves have done it. One of the things that we want to do once we get through denial, that we can get a psycho-historical journey into that person's psyche. We've already got it. But there is a process, and we will talk about that too, because out of these community workshops, that you all will be doing, you will naturally have those individuals who are ready to go to the next level, which is to start working on yourself. And that's what we want. You just don't want to be in the workshop, right? And just, dispense a lot of information, motivation, and you want to be there, right, for the next phase as well, right? So somebody, you're going to reach their hand out to you. You're going to need to hold on to that hand and take them with you through the journey.
And leave it to Bhagwan.
That's right, Lee. Yes, sister.
An example I used earlier was true. A guy was dating several years ago who also lives in my neighborhood. Went out to a club with his friends, and they wouldn't let them in because they had on jeans. And they're usually like that about single black men going into these clubs, right? And you were saying we should solve this problem creatively. Well, their solution to the problem, I don't know if you were thinking creatively or not, but one of their good friends was a reporter for a news station. They came back 2 or 3 days later with a TV crew, had them hide out in the parking lot, and they taped them being rejected again. And then after the rejection, they had their friend who worked for Channel 5 go over to the doorman and say, how come my friends weren't admitted? With the microphone and the light. And well, so then they had, we asked them for 2 or 3 pieces of ID, and they came up with another sheet. Well, my friend here produced 3 pieces of ID.
Yeah.
What's your, and they did this. Would that be considered?
That's creative. That's creative. Did it achieve the goal? Did it break down that policy?
Well, they didn't go back after that,
They
but
didn't want to go
they didn't have to because it was on the news.
Yeah, they were exposed.
They were exposed.
They shined that light into some darkness, right? Right. Well, their effort was moving toward justice. And whenever the way you handle that anger moves you toward justice making, even if it don't get you all the way there, but if it's moving you in that direction, justice making, that is where it's really resolving that situation, right? Changing that situation. That is good and that is healthy and that counts, right? Now, if they had a went home back to the neighborhood and set their apartment building on fire out of rage or beat their kids up, that would have been uncreative and inappropriate way of managing that. So here we're looking at some of the other things that people do with anger. Because whatever you're doing with your anger, you're doing it instantaneously. And I'm emphasizing that because one of the techniques in the workbook that you're going to need to prescribe and therefore going to need to understand is how to practice emotional awareness of all of the techniques for managing our anger at others, or for that matter, anger in any of the objects. Awareness is the most critical component. I dare say the most effective technique, not the one that is usually most accessible to everybody, but certainly in terms of effectiveness, emotional awareness is by far the most powerful technique. It's the most difficult, but the results is very permanent in practice. But before we enter into that, and we're gonna go a little while over here because I don't want to leave rooms in, because I may not be able to revisit this again because we do these tune-up workshops. I want you again to look and see what are some of the other things that we do with our anger. We know we can erupt, right? Erupt, explode, right? Sometimes we deny, sometimes we suppress, right? What else? We project. We talked about projection. Who can give me another example of an instance of a person who projects their anger? What does projection mean when a person's style of dealing with their anger is to project?
Somebody else may name.
Right. You blame it on somebody else.
Repress.
And repress, right? Repress. What do we mean by repress?
Can't feel it no more. Can't even feel anger.
Can't you feel it, right? Just repress all the way out of consciousness, right? What we call in the business dissociated, right, Sephora?
I don't know.
Right, David? We call that dissociation, right? When you cut off from your own feelings, yeah. And this is dangerous. Very, very dangerous. Because remember, when you have effectively shut down your capacity to feel any of the emotions, but particularly anger, you lose simultaneously your capacity to be emphatic. You can't understand another person's feelings, right? Now you go over to a person, a guy comes over, right, and you're sitting down having a nice dinner at the table. The guy will come over there, he'll spit in your food and keep, and then if you get angry, he really don't understand. What are you angry about? They really cannot understand. They can't feel their own self, and therefore they cannot feel you. This is the classic sociopath. Right, girl?
Yeah, because I was about to say, that's what I deal with a lot.
You do?
With the club. I mean.
At the
it's
club?
just- yeah, I mean.
Now them clubs.
I don't know whether, I mean, at the Boys and Girls Club.
All right, the guys who go to many different kinds of clubs.
It's like the kids will say things, I mean, and they'll do things, and I'm like, how can you not think that this person would not respond to you in this way? I mean, and it seems like that is what is promoted a lot in rap. I mean, in some form, some of the rap music.
Sure.
I mean, it is, I'm just, sometimes I sit back and I listen to some of it, and I'm just amazed at
Yes.
how can you just say this?
It is a maladaptive form of dealing with our anger. It's maladaptive. And you see a lot of that in our community, where we just, the racism and discrimination combined with the factors contributing to your own person anger. When those factors coming from your relationship with other people, plus coming from society, become so overwhelming. You see, the boss done beat you up, criticize you all day. Come on, your wife done beat you up, criticize you. Then your neighbors and your brother. I mean, every direction you turn, you catching hell, right? One of the things that we will do, we will just shut down. We'll dissociate. We will withdraw from our own life to escape the pain. It's profound. We have two dominant phenomena going on in our community. Repressed disassociation, right? Repressed dissociative behavior. And the other one I call forticidal. Forticidal behavior is that kind of behavior that is aimed at precipitating your own homicide through another individual. It's just like committing suicide, but as through an agency, right?
Aimed at your own
Yeah.
homicide.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah, it's the precipitation of your own, the precipitation of your own
So you, instead of committing suicide, you encourage somebody else to kill you.
there you go. Yes, it's called forticide. And you see a lot of forticidal brothers and sisters in the prisons. When we've gone and stayed with and stuff, that's what we see. We see a lot of forticidal people. What happens is that the pain of rejection that is inherent in the experience of racism, et cetera, the pain and the agony of taking others' commentary on you personally, and therefore experiencing deep feelings of worthlessness and inferiority. When these combined forces overwhelm the individual, because sometimes this individual will display a kind of aggressive behavior that is designed to cause someone else to kill them and take them out.
In fact, sometimes people pay somebody.
They'll tell you, you gotta kill me. MF. Now kill me, MF. Right? And they mean it. You do have to kill. And this killing could be not just at the physical level. It could be psychological, intellectual, in many ways. But the aim is always the same. Somebody take me out of my house. Do something. It doesn't matter. And remember, this homicidal, this associative, psychopathic person cannot be managed with policies and politics and religion. I mean, none of that stuff can impact on their behavior because they don't care nothing about it. When they don't care nothing about themselves, it don't matter what happens to them, so you can't discourage their behavior through punishment because it don't matter. That's the whole point. I want to be taken out. So we have a lot of black men who are in various stages of homicidal rage. Some brothers are so happy when they woman put them out. You don't know how happy they are. They want her to push them out so that they are relieved from the task of trying to be mean because they can't handle this. They are cuffed either sociologically or they are cuffed psychologically. And in many instances, they're cuffed one arm each by both. Right? We're so psychologically and emotionally messed up and maladapted as a result of the mismanagement of our own rage toward ourselves and others in our environment. And the society and this racism and stuff, we're glad when this woman does this. She did right? And he does everything he can for you to put him out. He's going to cheat. He's going to lie. He ain't going to do nothing right, just hoping that you get rid of me because I ain't good enough to be nobody else. Fundamentally, deep down inside, or we're covered up with our machoism. You have to understand, this is beneath the threshold of consciousness. But deep down inside, you feel, I ain't good enough to be nobody dead, nobody.
Don't know how.
Don't even know how to. And I want to avoid being exposed because if I have to marry you and stuff and all that, then I'm going to be exposed and you're going to find out, man, I ain't got nothing like a man. I got this macho bullshit, right? But I ain't got no authentic. And remember, women are on the same trip. All right? Ignorance does not discriminate. It is truly equal opportunity. It is worse. So, one of the things that we do with our aim is we repress and disassociate ourselves. And we do that instantly. The response is instantly, in milliseconds. We also create an addiction. I'm going just a little bit deeper now because you at another level. You need to know more than the casual person on the street. You agree? Yeah. All right. Another thing that we do with our anger and the frustration arises from it, we manage it addictively. Can some people give me examples of the addictive management of anger? I know you know. Go ahead. Drinking, right. Substance abuse. Right? I mean, these are pretty clear. Eating disorders. Promiscuousness, sexual promiscuousness.
Lack of eating.
Lack of eating, anorexia. Yeah. Bulimia, yeah. I mean, it fills the whole scope of DSM-4, doesn't it, Sandra? Right? It covers the whole spectrum of mental things. Right? Because you have to understand, another way of dealing with it is insanity. Can y'all see this at the bottom? Yeah. Yeah. Write that down. A lot of times when we do it our anger, we go insane. We get crazy. Because remember, by me creating a persona that reflects insanity, do you know how much and how many of the tasks of life I'm going to be relieved? It's beautiful. I mean, it's great. Let me go psychotic.
And plus you get paid.
Then you get paid. room and board. Look at that. It's big time. It's big time. Now remember, all of this is on the subconscious. And all of us do these things. I mean, so it's not like we're, beating up on nobody. We all fit somewhere in this thing. You see my point? And we just really have to recognize that. But I want you to see that these are immediate responses. Right? And you can see some people when they get angry, they go crazy. They go hysterical. Right? So some people handle their anger hysterically. Because they can get away with it. Girl, forgive me. I was tripping. I was tripping. You forgive me, don't do that. It's an excuse. Their style is hysterical. So, it is instant. It's an instant response. Instantly you get hysterical. Instantly. But in milliseconds, that's the key that I really want you to understand. Now, the question that you have to be able to do yourself, yes, brother, 1 minute, and help people in our workshop do is find out what do we, on a personal level, do with our people. You need to know the answer. Yes, brother.
I was just thinking, if we was conditioned to respond in these types of ways, can we recondition ourselves to respond in a different type of way?
Yes. The answer is yes, 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 yes. And that is the function of the workshops that we want to do. We want to now, after identifying the condition, we want to consciously and deliberately re-enter into our psyche, into our psychology, and consciously edit out those things that we find to be counterproductive. That is the whole process. You see, that's what we want to do. But we can't help others do that until we do it ourselves. It's not a kind of thing that you can do and say, well, okay, person, turn to page 777 in this book, and this will show you how to conduct a psycho-historical journey back into the deepest recesses of your consciousness, and there re-encounter your conditioning, and then consciously change it. Ain't no book in the world that can do that. You have to do that. In fact, it's really interesting, even those who have studied the psychologies of the West in academic setting, they'll understand that neither Freud nor Adler nor Jung taught from books at all. The only way to become an Adlerian therapist or a Jungian therapist or a Freudian therapist, you have to go to another therapist. There was no other way. There was no books, right? You could not just pull a book off the shelf of the collected writings of Jung. You understand? Or pull some from the Freudian mythology. You can't even learn psychotherapy like that. There's a kind of knowledge that you can only have from first-hand experience. And this is one, right? That as it relates to what you said. When we're talking about changing our conditioning, you actually got to go into it, right? You got to go into it. And if we have gone into it ourselves, now we can really help others. That is the criteria. So these are some of the responses. Now let's go a little bit deeper. Along with cheating, but that's all right. And then we're going to end. I want to connect this with one of the homeworks in the chapter. Because you got to know which homework to give for what situation, right? True that. That's right? That's right. Right. So you're going to need to know how to prescribe the exercises. Right? We're not going to be giving anybody any written, right? No Halidone. we ain't medicated nobody. We ain't staffing none of them, right? We're going to treat with knowledge. We're going to treat with understanding. We're going to treat with those exercises and self-work, as you call it, David. homework, as I call it, that generates the level of understanding necessary to correct the deficiency. I said that one of the most powerful exercises that you can prescribe for the category of, for the object of anger that we call our anger at others, is the practicing of emotional awareness. And by emotional awareness, I could have said anger awareness, but I said emotional awareness because this method is true across the board of all the emotions, particularly the negative, destructive one, lust, greed, attachment, vanity, right? Those four, along with anger, are the source of all negative behavior that you can witness in any human being. It is the source of all that we call evil. It is the source of all that you call sin. They are the source of all of the behaviors in man that makes man's behavior lower than that of a jungle animal. It is the cabal of sin. So I call it emotional awareness to bear that in mind. But we want to practice more specifically out of that complex and cluster is anger awareness. How to catch your anger. So if you haven't read this chapter in your books, what you really need to do is to read the homeworks and understand the homeworks as they relate to antidotes to these various objects of anger. And if you don't have a book, Civil Law, Giving Your Money, and I'll make sure you have it by Tuesday, because we're not going to have a lot of time, right? We're not going to have a lot of time before these programs are scheduled to kick off. So now, what do we mean by catching the anger? Because we know that this is the problem. The speed of the response is so fast. You got to catch that. You got to actually catch yourself before the conditioning kicks in. That's hard, isn't it? Right? Yes. Anybody that practices that is hard. And if you practice it, you see, you'll have some sympathy. You'll have some empathy for the people in the class. I mean, you won't be so quick to judgment and criticism and all that other nonsense, because you know firsthand this is hard. Right? You'll be more encouraged, more understanding, and all the good quality that you would need is there. Right? What and how do we go about practicing this emotional awareness? Yes?
Well, on the level of the body, you can feel it.
Right. First level we practice on is at the level of the body. Is to begin by just catching it at the level even of the body. To be able to become at least conscious to know it's tough as well. You see, and you can't be afraid of your anger to do this game. No, right? You got to befriend your anger. Pick it up. Hold it in your arm. This is your anger. It comes from you. It says something about you. It's a part of your biography. We have to break down this fear of our anger, because if you're fearful of your anger, you're never going to really master it. You're going to keep what? Suppressing, denying, expressing, disassociating, and all those other things, right? So we got to befriend it. Understand, this is a gift. This is a gift. This is power. This is ability. This is information. You can make changes with this stuff. This is real. You can witness a person that is properly managing their anger. These people wrought miracles. Miracles. You see? They do miracles with it. And we are the beneficiaries of it. We're sitting in these hotels and stuff like that because somewhere in our background, in our race somewhere, managed their anger. They said, no more. I won't die. You understand? I mean, it was a very different thing, wasn't it? All right? They made some justice. So, the first thing is to catch your anger at the physical level. Just to catch it. And then really understand how do your anger feel in your body. Become very familiar with it. Does it hit you in your stomach? Does yours hit you in your hip? Does it hit you in your neck? Does it hear your temple? When you feel it in the stomach? Where? Where is the anger at in your body? Get into that. You know, become very knowledgeable about it. To catch it. Normally what happens is what? Anger hits us at the body, right? Gone right on through the mind, right? Out in the world, kill somebody, right? Go to jail for 3 years, and then you come back and you find yourself, oh, I was angry. I got angry. Yeah, you discovered this 5 years later. You got angry. You need to be able to catch the anger as quickly as possible. And so you start first by practicing catching it at the level of the body. You can also catch your lust. All of these are rooted in the body. You catch your greed. There's a physical side to all of these different practices. After, and when you catch it every time, it's going to go away a lot of times. You know, a lot of times. But slowly and slowly, you'll be able to start catching yourself sooner and sooner. All right? First the anger will come in, do its thing, do its damage, and then an hour later you'll catch it. Practice some more. Keep practicing. Soon it'll still come into you, do its thing, tear stuff, but you'll catch it a half an hour later. Keep doing it a little bit more, and now you'll catch it just when it's at the peak of the rage, just when it's flaring off, it's evaporating, it's about to exit, but you caught it before it left the scene, right? You still got that knife up there, right? See? Practice a little bit more, and you'll start catching it midway. Practice more, and you'll catch it before you, just as it's entering the body. And why is it important to catch it? Because then you can do all of the things we've been talking about to manage it, to de-escalate this impact, etc. So the sooner you catch it, the more you're going to be able to manage. That's the whole concept. But now, the beauty of this thing is that if you just keep practicing awareness, you don't have to take no medicine, you don't have to see no therapist, you don't have to read no book, you need not come to any workshops, you don't have to do nothing. Just practice becoming more and more aware. This is the secret. This is the alchemy of transformation. Practice at the next level. Soon you'll start catching the anger in the form of thoughts. Anger is preceded by thoughts. And you'll start catching. And I've described the technique in the book in detail, but I want you to begin to appreciate the level of skill here. So now you can start catching your anger even at the level of your thoughts. I mean, you can stop all of that. that self-anger talk, right? Before it get out into your fist. You can shut down that thing. You can catch it. But the highest level of mastery is you catch the anger even before it becomes a thought. Because you notice that you wake up sometimes and you're in a mood. You start monitoring your moods. This is deep. If you pay attention to your moods, you will find that you have a missus. Just like the women have a physical missus. There's a missus. And these moods are traveling. You find it. You wake up, nothing has happened yet. And you're in a bad mood already. Some of you, now I know y'all, some of you can identify. You just wake up, you're in a bad mood. That mood is there. It runs as an undercurrent now throughout that whole day. When you're in that mood, be careful that day. Be very, very watchful. That means something is about to happen. You're vulnerable this day. You know, your friend is visiting. Your enemy is visiting you. Right? So you better be ready. Enemy is in the house, in the system. And you be very careful. You be very mindful of that.
have to sense that. Sense that.
You can feel it. You feel it with your awareness. It's real subtle. Because first you start feeling your body. Then you feel your emotions, your thinking. And then you start feeling your mood. And when you get real good at this here, then what you'll discover that you can feel all the emotions that you're having. Emotions are not happening sequentially. All emotions exist in a cluster like groups. Now, that day you were mad in that office at that man. Anger. That was not your chief mood. It was a lot of other moods in your psyche. You might have been happy about this thing. You were glad about something else. You know, all of this is going on. You see, simultaneously. All of the emotions exist simultaneously. It is just which one you allow into action based on your intention. It gets deep. Once we have gotten to that level, we done did the clinician job. That's done. Now this person is ready for substance. Now they're ready for meditation. Now they're ready for meditation. Now they're ready for some spiritual teaching. Now they can do something. You see my point? So this emotional awareness exercise is very, very powerful. Now yes.
So, are we supposed to take our psyche in some type of transcendental state? You know, where we get out of ourselves totally in order to manage this anger, this whole anger thing. You know, you said at one point you catch it before it even get into your psyche.
You can catch it even before it gets into the cycle.
That is seemingly to me
I know, it sounds impossible.
impossible.
I know. It sounds
See,
but you see, it's a matter of being sensitive. See, we're not sensitive. That's why I said we all have dissociated. Not just physically, we dissociated from our feelings, from our mind. I mean, we done did some big time dissociation, right? But all of this phenomenon that's going on is going on in you. We have the capacity to be aware of it, if we choose to be. And we have to practice it. Meditation is one of the practices. And again, I said this, meditation is probably one of the most advanced stages after the clinical part has been done. You know, or at least let's say we got to get a person clinically clean enough to do meditation. But as you do meditation, that's the beauty of meditation. Meditation is awareness, how to say it? Meditation is an exercise that gives depth to awareness. It makes you more aware. And this state of more awareness produces more understanding. See, that's the beauty. The more aware, the more understanding. The more understanding, the stuff just drops away. None of this negative behavior can exist in awareness. After you have to shut down your awareness, shut down your intelligence to produce the negative behavior. You ever notice? Looking in the Bible, we talked about the analogy that is used in the Gospel of John, the light shines in the darkness covering the night. Don't even want it in there. Because the darkness, you know, the mind needs darkness, a certain amount of unconsciousness to do things that are wrong. So that's another exercise that is in the book that is very, very powerful, in addition to telling the truth, as a means of dealing with your anger at others. What I like about that method is because once you become aware of your anger, now you automatically become aware of yours. Your empathy level goes way up. It's not just sympathy no more. Now you become sympathetic. Non-sympathetic. You know, I see you. When you reach an emphatic level of awareness, you actually are able to feel the other person. You become very sensitive. You can feel when you, right now, you don't even know when you hurt somebody's feeling. Do you understand? You don't hurt the person feeling. Person is ready to kill you. You don't even know it. You're just going on lolly, and then bam, you dead. You see, you didn't even know what you did. You didn't even know you injured nobody. You were unconscious. You were so distracted in your own nonsense. You didn't know what you were doing in the relationship, and you've hurt someone. You didn't have enough awareness, even of your own self, let alone of the person. But as this ability to become aware matures, it expands outside of you. And start enabling you to connect into other people. You become truly emphatic. So now you're very aware of this. You can avoid unnecessary stepping on those things. You see? And that generates more harmony, more peace, more love in the relationships. Yes, sir.
I have a question. In terms of us, becoming emotionally aware, sometimes when, let's say my nieces, they'll do something and they're not supposed to do it, or they've been told not to do it, whatever, and I get really angry about it. And I know this is a part of projection because when I sit back after I got mad, I think about what I did and I say to myself, the very thing that I got mad at them about is the very thing that I don't do. But I'm getting angry at them, and I'm not understanding if that's what I'm doing, if that's what I'm not doing, why am I getting angry at them when they do these things?
Who can answer that question for me? Who can answer that question for me? Why is he getting angry? Repeat the dilemma.
Say that again.
Because in the long run, she wanted to do it, and she didn't. And they doing it for her, and now she's mad because they have enough courage to do it.
No, maybe it's because she sees that fault in herself. Sometimes that makes us angrier than anything because we can see ourselves in that other person.
That's right. That's why that's what I'm saying. What else would you want? Repeat it again already.
Sometimes my nieces will do something and they've been asked not to do it or whatever. And when they do it, I get really angry. Let's say give you a classic example of do your homework. You know you need to do your homework every night, and they don't do their homework, and I get really angry. Then I sit back and I say, well, I'm supposed to be meditating this particular time. And then I'll say, I'll get to it later, and I'm thinking to myself now, the very thing that I'm supposed to be doing, if I'm telling them their homework is something that's going to help them to grow, well then meditation is going to help me to grow. Then why am I getting so upset at them, about it?
Because you're angry at yourself.
This place angry at herself.
Right.
Projected anger.
Right.
How about some real
simple?
How about
Thought
some
she
real
couldn't get you right.
Go ahead, Sam. You know what? Made you angry. They didn't do what you said. And you the auntie, they the kids. Right. Or you took their refusal to cooperate with you personally. I mean, there's many things. And those are the kind of ways. And the person has to be given like a menu to select. They will know when they got the right one. We can't, as we all understand, we can't tell them anything. Right? You just can kind of create a context where they'll find their own particular thing, exactly what it is. Last question.
How can you instill this dilemma?
It's still what?
Like, just different methods to control your anger, because you can't tell someone how they're supposed to feel. You most definitely can't make them do a certain thing, but like, how can you give them ways to not do something? Like, okay, I work with kids before, and I had these twins that's extremely bad over. But the situation was, they were swimming this morning, everyone except for this one little boy. And then the girls was going swimming late in the morning in the afternoon. And the one little boy couldn't go swim because he didn't have his truck. He got his truck late at one. And I told him he could go swim with the girl. One of the twins was angry because he could go swimming again. And I was trying to explain to him, you went swimming once before. And he was like, well, Michael's the one. I'm like, don't concern yourself about Michael. And then after he was still concerned about Michael, I started
What was she trying to do to this boy? She was invalidated first of all.
No, but afterwards I explained to him why Michael went. And I told him, I was like, well, you can't go.
But you didn't validate his anger. You took away from him his right to be angry. Right? You told him that fundamentally it was wrong for him to get angry.
No, I understood why he was upset, and I gave him like hours. He wouldn't do anything. He was just miserable for the whole day.
You didn't know how to give him any relief for his anger?
No.
You should have called your mama or your uncle. No, but
That expresses it.
right.
I mean, he was being hard. I asked him to line up afterwards. Like, okay, no,
But
we
you
was
asked
gonna
him, are you angry? And he's a young type, so I
appointed a set amount of time, and they appointed, I told him that too.
I tell you what, homework for the next week will be to find an answer to this. But read the book, the answers is there. All right? One more question, one more question, one more question. Okay.
This has nothing to do with Tino workshop. This is the conclusion of the mystical teaching of Jesus. One thing, please. Please answer this for me, please. You know, everyone that used to drink, right, especially me, I've been a connoisseur of all alcoholic beverages, right? They make the excuse that, well, you know, you can pick up that Bible, even Jesus turned water into wine.
Right.
Can you explain that parable that he gave in terms of the wedding, please?
Yes. You see, wine has always been a symbol of the higher states of consciousness, simply because they are intoxicating, simply because they fill one with bliss, simply because, like alcohol, they take one to a place in consciousness that is free of worry about this world, and so forth and so on. So many of the mystics, particularly the Sufi mystics, have used wine as a symbol, as opposed to water, which does not intoxicate anyone. You see? And so water is a very ordinary thing to drink, in some sense. And so the mystic was saying that just we'll take this ordinary water that does nothing to impact on consciousness, that does not get you high. We'll take your ordinary life. These teachings will transform your ordinary life into wine. You see? So that now the teachings will enable you to live your life in such a way that you will experience intoxication, bliss. What Jesus called the kingdom of heaven. That was the terminology. That by following the way that he taught, following the teaching that he gave, that you will be able to generate for yourself the experience of being in heaven. Right? So the wine was symbolic of this experience. But you have to remember that during ancient times, all of these teachings had to be put into coded form. So it's not unusual to find this throughout any ancient teaching system. They very often couch the mysticism in code language. A fish is another code word, and so forth and so on. That it was used by many of the Christian Gnostics to communicate the teachings. In fact, that was one of the things that caused so much commotion in the early formation of the Christian church was the Christian Gnostics, who had a very mystical interpretation of everything. Because the literalists, they thought Jesus was actually talking about wine. Some, even the Eucharists, thought, you know, you're supposed to actually cannibalize the body, you see, and all these other things. And of course, it has nothing to do with it. So that was the meaning. So the alcoholic who points to the Bible as a justification for drinking wine, literal wine, is simply not really understood, you see. That Jesus and these mystics were never talking about the kind of wine that he's putting in his cooler.
One other thing, because you mentioned the 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread.
Yes. Again,
What's the symbol?
the symbolism there? The symbolism there is simple, that with a little, one can do